Okay, welcome to part 2 and the last video of McCall's 8084. This is the pattern review and the sewing highlights. Here are some sewing techniques you'll need to know in order to complete this pattern. It's some side seam pockets, understitching, gathering stitches, gathering, seam finishes, and waistline casing. If you need a refresher, or if you need to know how to do this technique in general, I'll put a link at the top of the screen. Go ahead over there and you'll see some free videos that will cover these techniques. Go ahead and review that, come back, and let's get started. If you already know how to do my sew-alongs and videos, and if you'll be kind enough to watch at least one ad, should it appear, which enables me to keep bringing you free content, feel free to skip ahead to go straight to the pattern spotlight. Skip ahead to the 4-minute, 5-second mark.
Here's a little bit about how I do my Sew With Me sew-alongs.
Techniques, I'm going to put it on the website and I will reference it in the sew-along itself. So for example, we're working on a pair of pants that has a fly front. So when we get to that portion in the sew-along, I'll do a little bit of it, in instructions in the sew-along itself, but then I'm going to refer you over to the website to go ahead and look at that video, that particular video, look it over, study it, do your own sample if you want, because I'm big on that technique binder. So go ahead and and do that, and then once you get a good hang of what that technique is, then come back onto the sew along itself and do that particular technique with the sew along. So that way we both kind of benefit. You still get the instruction of the actual sew along, step by step of how to do a particular thing. But it's less editing on my part because like I said, I'll mention it in the sew along itself, but then I'll refer you over to the website to actually find that particular technique and go ahead, review it, look at it. And then once you master it or enough to where even you sew along, at the same time and install it in that particular sew along that you're doing at that time. So hopefully that will be okay for you, because I think I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank everyone for watching my videos. I love to upload the videos. I love to share my knowledge. And I'm pretty sure that you guys love to get free content. So in order for me to keep uploading free content, I just need you to do some simple things for me, some very simple things. The first thing is just to hit the subscribe button. So just make sure that you hit that. So you're subscribed to my channel, hit the notification bell so when I upload a new video, you don't miss out and you get to see it. And then also, if there's an ad on my videos, they're typically anywhere from 10 seconds to maybe up to 2 minutes. Just go ahead and either watch it or do something else you want to do in those in that particular time that ad is running. So use the restroom, go get something to drink or something like that. Because that way, if you let that ad run, I benefit from YouTube, and that way I can still keep creating content and uploading it for free.
Okay. Enough of that boring stuff. Back to the sew along.
Please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And also hit the notification bell so you don't miss any uploads. Thanks again and keep on watching. Okay, so this is part 2. I know I said we was going to start with 18, but that's basically just the sleeve, elastic sleeve. So we're going to skip 18 through 21 and just come back to do that as a finishing step. So we're going to go to 23. So 23 and 24, which are basically the same thing. Okay, so what you're going to do is attach the pockets, okay, to both the skirt front and skirt backs. All right, so you need pattern pieces number 6, number 7, and number 5, which are your pockets. All right, And so once you do that, you're just going to find your markings. I'll just show you on here. You're going to find your markings on the pockets, and you're just going to base that down. And let me see what they say. Each side matching notch and taken up. So you're going to stitch it down at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, stitch the pockets to the front and the back at a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and it will be right sides together. Okay, so pocket to skirt front and skirt back, it will be right sides together. So go ahead and do that and come back. All right, so we just completed step 23 and 24. We're moving on to 25 basically, and that is placing right sides together, front piece to back piece. Oh, let me give you some hints here. It's best to serge around the curve, or finish your pocket around the curve before you attach them to your garment. Okay, I know it, but I hardly ever do it. And then I regret it every time I do. I guess I'm so in a rush to put the pockets on, I keep forgetting to serge around it. But it's best to do that beforehand for all 4 of your pockets. Okay, and so now what you're going to do is you want to move your pockets away from your garment. Okay, and you want your seam allowance to be toward the pocket. Okay, not toward the garment, but toward the pocket. So say you know your pocket is like this now, so basically just keep the seam allowance like this. Okay, and just put the pocket fold the pocket away from the garment, ensuring that the seam allowance is under the pocket. Some people actually understitch it to ensure that the seam allowance remains on the pocket side. So that is an option for you, or you can just press it, either one. Okay, but just try to remember to keep that seam allowance under the pocket. Okay, so you want to make sure that the pocket is away from the garment on both sides. Okay, and then you're going to place front on top of back, or back and front on top of front, doesn't matter. And you just want to make sure that it's right sides facing. Okay, and you want to match up any of your notches that you have. You're going to have an opening. Now, I haven't lined this up, but I just want to explain it real fast. So this is your pockets all lined up. Okay, and so you're going to have, oh, that's wrong. Sorry, had it backwards. All right. What's that? Because I can't see any markings. All right, so here, so you can see pockets all lined up. Let's redo that. All right, making sure that the seam allowance is facing the pocket. All right, and you should have some markings. It's a marking there, and it's a marking here. I'll put a marking on mine. You can see it's in red. All right, and that's basically between those markings is your opening, pocket opening. So what you're going to do is you're going to start at the really start at the bottom. Okay, start at the bottom, back stitch, go up to your first marking, back stitch, cut your threads, leave this opening because you want to be able to put your hand through. Start again here at your second marking, start, back stitch, go all the way up to the top, and back stitch. Then once you do that, you are going to sew the pocket bag together. Okay, so you're going to sew from the top along the curve, basically around the curve to where your stitching was in your initial stitching, okay, when you went up the garment. So you're just basically going to close it off there. And then you want to finish off your pocket raw edges, like I said, but it's really best to do it beforehand, but I just didn't. And if you notice, I have serged my whole pocket. You know, they said just to do the 1/4 inch to attach the pocket to the garment. I actually just serged the whole end because, like I said, my fabric is just fraying ridiculously. So in order to kind of stop that, that's what I did. Now, I'm a little, I don't know what you want to call it, but, you know, I want to make sure that the seams match up. So I usually start mine matching up the seams at the top there, and then put a pin. All right, and then from this point, you typically can't see, right? So I usually lift mine up and just make sure that I'm on seam. Almost like when I'm doing a invisible zipper, making sure that seam of one bodice front matches the seam to the bodice back. Okay. And when it does, I just bring it down and I pin it. And I just keep on matching up the seam. And so forth. So you get the idea. All right, so I do that just to make sure that my seams are lining up along this pocket opening. Okay, so I'll typically do that all the way to the end until, you know, I pass the pocket. Then, you know, you can just match up your raw edges there. All right, so go ahead and do that for both sides of your pocket and come back. Okay, so back from the sewing machine, and I'll show you one side. Okay, so it's hard to tell because I'm using white thread, but you know, stitched up here, back stitch like, you know, I went through before. But one thing a tip that I want to show you is once you leave where you can measure out your 5/8 from the part where your pocket is, you can't really measure it. So I just use a ruler and do a guideline, and you can see mine is in red up until where I have to do the back stitch, and I do it again at the top because your pocket is in the way, so it's hard to tell what your 5/8 is. So as you can see, I did a red guideline. Okay, serged my pocket together, and this is what I'm talking about. Usually it's really hard to get in the bottom part. I haven't cut off the excess yet, but if you serge after, it's really hard to get in that curve. We're trying to show you. Oh Lordy, there we go. It's hard to get in this curve right here. So that's why it's good to finish off your raw edges of your pockets before you place them. But anywho, so at this point it tells you to cut the back seam allowance, and I just made a marking on mine because it looks the same front and back. So this is my back seam allowance. It's actually facing up below the pocket, and all that does is so you can press the seam open. So you just open up your seam allowance and you're just going to clip right underneath your pocket into the back seam allowance. Just enough so you can open it, and it'll be like, you can open it like this and press that flat. Okay. On the other side here. All right. And now what it's telling you to do is move your pocket to the front. Okay, to the front bodice. All right, so all I did was just make sure that my pocket is along the front, and you're going to base along the top. And all that does is secure it so it doesn't flap around. Okay, so just do that on both sides and come back. And again, this was steps 25 through 27. Okay, do that and come back. All right, so back from the sewing machine, and as you can see, I basted the pocket to the front pattern piece. Not sure if you saw that. Basted the pocket to the front pattern piece. All right, and you have a functioning pocket. Yay. So just go ahead and give everything a good press. Okay, so I actually moved a little further on. I had to charge my phone because it was halfway dead, or just about dead, but I didn't want to stop with this. What I did was I attached front to back. No, I'm sorry. I attached the bodice to the skirt portion at the hem, okay, or at the raw edges, I should say. Okay, at the raw edges, and did a 1 3/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, I had previously serged the my raw edges because my fabric frays a lot. Okay, so after I did that, then we needed to create the casing, right? But you don't need both seam allowances to create the casing because that creates a lot of bulk. So what you typically do is cut the inner seam allowance, leave the outer one as intact, and use that as your casing. But what I was doing at the same time was I was watching court TV, you guys, and a verdict came in, and so I got I don't know. I wasn't being focused. I was not focused at all. So I cut the outside one, as you can see here. That's the reason why this looks like that. I cut the outside one. This was supposed to be the one to create the casing. So I cut all the way around, trying to listen to this verdict, and obviously I goofed. So anywho, so I had to use the inside casing. The inside seam allowance to create the casing. And so that's what this is. So let's pretend you can't see this, right? And so this is the casing. This is the front of the garment, okay? Because that technically only had one. Didn't have two, just had one. But, this started the casing here. And so, I just sewed a 1/4 inch all the way around, okay? Now, because my fabric frayed, I had to go ahead and finish this, the one that I cut on accident. I had to serge that because it unravels, and, just didn't want that. So just wanted to tell you this, that's the reason why that looks like that. And to be focused, but anywho, yeah, that's my blooper.
So next is you need pattern piece number 9, which is the ruffle. And just if you're wondering, I cut my TV off. I'm so mad. Anywho. Okay, so you should have 3, and you want to put your ruffles together. Make sure mine is right side up. And you want to put them right sides together, and you're going to attach them at the short ends or the side seams, however you want to, label it. So you'll have one long round piece when you're done. Okay. Once you do that, I want you to finish the bottom edge, however you want to finish it, serge it or zigzag it. Okay, so finish that, and then at the top, at each one of the sections, I want you to do 2 rows of gathering stitches because we have to gather it up a little bit. So you should have anywhere from 3 to 6, I would say, sections of gathering stitch, however you want to do. You can do it for each one of the panels, which will be 1, or you can break the panels up into 2 sections, and that's the reason why you will have 6. So, honestly, I would probably, I don't know, sometimes I do it smaller sections, sometimes I do it larger sections, just depending on how I feel. So go ahead and do at the top, do your 2 rows of gathering stitches, and at the bottom again, do your edge finish. Okay, how you finish. I'm going to finish the hem, and I will be serging mine. All right, do all that and come back. All right, so my least favorite thing, gathering. So I did my gathers, it was 3 pieces put together to make the ruffle. So I did 2 rows of gathers on each one of those 3 pieces. So I had 3 rows of gathering. Okay. And you were supposed to put one seam, like one of the seams along the center back. And then there were, I'll show you on the front pattern piece, there was dots, down below. You're supposed to mark whatever your dot was. And so your other 2 seams went on the front skirt pattern where those dots was. And then you just take your time and gather that in. So as you see, I did that. And then, pinned it in place. So now you're supposed to do, 5/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way around, and then go in that 5/8 toward the raw edge by 1/4 of an inch, and do another row of stitches. And then you want to finish off your raw edges however you see fit, zigzag or serge. I will be serging mine. And then you want to do, we have to do our elastic, and that's the last part, but I'll come back and I'll talk to you about the elastic because we still have to do the hem part, and I don't remember what it said, but I'll look that up and see what that is. And so basically you're just going to do a casing for your sleeve hem at whatever seam allowance it is, and I'll find that out and let you know. And you're going to leave 2 inches or so, just like you did for your waistline casing. Leave that 2 inches so you can put the elastic in there. And then once you do all that, you are finished. Okay, people, go ahead and do this ruffling part. All right. Okay, so right here, I'm just showing you that I'm going to be putting a snap right there, for modesty purposes. And that is the elastic sleeve hem. And there's the waistline casing with the elastic inside.
So overall, I think it's a very good fit. Nice and airy, moving, flowy. Great range of motion. No restrictions there. It is shorter, even though the pattern, I did see it on there. I meant to lengthen it, but I didn't. So it does come above the knee, but that's okay. And this is me showing you that I could have took it in a little bit more, but it's okay. And there's the peekaboo opening. And that's just the elastic. Oh, I'm sorry, the gathered flounce at the bottom. And this is me just showing you that it, the pockets. I almost forgot it had pockets. So that's just me. It's like, yay, it has pockets. Anyway, I think it's a good, I liked it. I liked the way it came out. These are just some still shots. Okay, so let's get into the pattern review. Sewing rating is easy, and I do agree with it, but I will probably give it a more of an advanced beginner because you do have the side seam pockets. The pattern sizing I cut was an extra large, which is a 20 to 22, but I did alter it. The description is a semi-fitted dress, tie front bodice, bat wing sleeves. The version that I did, B, has elastic cuffs, elastic waist. A has a ruffle and length variations. B has a hemline ruffle. The fabric I used was a taffeta, black and off-white. It's lightweight to medium weight. The fiber content is a polyacetate. Doesn't have any stretch, and it is opaque. I got it from fabric.com, and item number is CPE3523W. The cost was $3.90. The fabric category is a woven. Silhouette structure is structured yet flowy, and it is crisp. The drape, it drapes semi away from the body, and it is opaque. So some questions. Did it look like the photo drawing on the pattern envelope? It did. Were the instructions easy to follow? They were. What did you particularly like or dislike about the pattern? Everything was fine with the pattern. It was fine and easy to sew. Pattern alterations or any design changes I made. I added 3 inches to the bust, 6 inches to both the waist and the hips. Would you sew it again? No, for me it was a one and done. But would you recommend it to others? Yes, I would. Let's see, the final cost. Cost $16.05 to make this. The pattern itself was $1.99. Thread I had on hand. Did not use interfacing. Again, the fabric was $3.90 a yard. I used 3 yards. So $11.70. Elastic, the 1-inch one was $2.36 that I used. And for the sleeve, elastic sleeve hem, that was the 3/8 inch. And I had that on hand, and I actually didn't have what I paid for that, so I didn't count that. So total was $16.05. Prep time was approximately 3 hours. Sewing and ironing time was approximately 5 hours. I didn't count all the time. I just honestly forgot, but it was approximately 5 hours. So for a total construction time of 8 hours for McCall's 8084. If you made this pattern or intend to, or if you're going to follow along with me, please let me know in the comments. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of content. Thanks again for watching, and happy sewing.